I'm over it, I'm over it, I'm over it, I'm over it, I'm over it. Let's just get to the action, and not that kind of action. The Beleaguered Author's one-stop shop for commiseration and, hopefully, inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Today is the start of another reading vlog. If you saw my reading vlog last week, you know I had a very successful week. What feels like a breakthrough in the months-long reading slump that I have been in since March. And I am hoping to follow that up this week. So this week I am focusing on 2 books. For my physical read, I have chosen One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This was on my completely random June TBR, and I was really looking forward to plunging in as I've heard really, really interesting things about the magic system. That being said, I am now about 70 pages in. I've read the first six chapters, and I don't think that I like it. The writing style doesn't super appeal to me. She is rushing from moment to moment to moment without doing much work on establishing why each moment is important or the long-term consequences of these moments. There is quite a bit of lore to do with the magic system and the special thing about the main character. She's done plenty of work in that regard. However, I just don't care. And it doesn't help that the main character, Elspeth, is frustratingly fucking dumb. I'm really not a fan of several of the choices that she's made, several of the fights that she's picked, several of her personality quirks. She seems to have a certain idea in her head of how the world is supposed to be, and she chafes when things are not that way. Chafes is the wrong word. She can't comprehend it when people and things act differently than what she has assigned them in her head. And that's only 70 pages in. Now, I have just reached what I believe is the inciting incident. She's met a person who she expected to be her enemy, but is offering a hand of friendship. And of course, she is resisting that for no other reason than she just expects them to be an enemy. And again, it's very frustrating to read. And so I imagine that things will take a turn and she'll learn more and her perceptions will be challenged and what she thought she knew, yada, yada, yada. Fine. But I just really don't love how it was executed thus far. That being said, I did just DNF a book last week in 5 Broken Blades, and I really don't want to have to DNF another book, and especially another physical book that I own and paid money for. So I'm going to try and push through it because the magic system is very good. Just a very unpleasant reading experience so far, but because I don't want to DNF another book so close to my last DNF, I'm going to try and push through and hope that the magic system, which I really do enjoy, carries me through the rest of the book. So that is One Dark Window. For my ebook, I decided to restart The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. I had started this one a while back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember. It's been a while though. And I didn't really love, first of all, the prologue was from the perspective of the colonizers. And at the time I didn't realize that that perspective was going to change or be different or approach those topics. And I was like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. And the prologue also had multiple sub chapters. And I thought that was really weird. So I decided to DNF it at the time. I did a little research into it. I learned that, yes, this is from the perspective of this kingdom that were the colonizers, and they are constantly at war with the people they colonize. But it doesn't take a pro-colonizer approach in the rest of the book. So feel better about that. And as I've been reading it on the second go around, I have found that I actually like this author's style of writing. He has several very long chapters that he breaks into sub chapters, which are kind of short. And I kind of like that because it moves things along very, very quickly. I was able to read over 100 pages today without even really trying that hard. So I am just at the 20% mark. Again, I have just hit the inciting incident, and I can kind of see the shape of what is to come now. And while I don't think I'm super in love with the story still, I do appreciate it certainly more than I did the first time I tried to read it, and it kind of just fits more with what I am looking for right now in this moment to read. So yeah, so like I said, I read 20% today in no time flat. I definitely anticipate getting this one finished this week. So those are the two main books I'm reading. And then for my audiobook, I am plugging away a little bit at a time through The Blade itself. I am about 5%. Yeah, that sounds about right. 5 to 7% of the way through The Blade itself. I've listened to the first 3 chapters, one of which was quite a bit longer than the other 2. Again, not much to say about that. The audiobook is very interesting. The narrator has a huge repertoire of voices that he's doing for the many different characters, which I find interesting. So far I'm not hating it. I'm kind of intrigued to see what the story is because I really don't know just yet. It just kind of feels like a kind of old school man's man epic fantasy. So don't really know, again, how to feel about it. Don't really know what to think about the characters, which ones are going to be important and whatnot. But, and those are the 3 books that I am reading for this week's vlog. I did decide to soft DNF Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb and return it to the library because I was running out of time and I just wasn't feeling it. I had gotten to about, again, like the 20-25% mark, and I just didn't care, and it was moving very slowly. And for something to move that slowly in that few amount of pages, it was only like 336 pages in the ebook version. It just left me wanting more. And so with the other books that I wanted to read, with my TBR books that I want to get to this month, I decided to go ahead and just return that to the library and maybe return to it at a different time. Definitely still have interest in it. I think there are concepts in it that I'm really intrigued by, but I just thought like I had another dragon book lined up with the Rage Dragon, so I figured I would prioritize my TBR books instead and get that one back to the library. Kind of a mixed bag so far, but we will see how it goes. Again, I'm just so grateful to be interested in reading again. So I will check in with you tomorrow once I've done a little bit more reading.
Hello, friends. Apologies for all of this. I have been sick the last couple of days, but I wanted to pop on and give you a quick reading update. I haven't been reading too much because I've been feeling really crappy and sleeping a lot, but I did get to the 25% mark of One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, which is about 30 more pages than where I was at before. A couple of chapters, and my opinion hasn't really changed. I still really don't like the main character. I feel like the plot has potential. She has met up with members of the royal family who seem like they might be working against the interests of the royal family, and certainly against established law that would have Elspeth thrown in prison because she was infected with this magic illness as a child, and then they hid it, they managed to successfully hide it, but in this country, if you are infected, you are taken away. So these people know that she has been infected and that she might have magic, but they aren't turning her in. So that's interesting. And I think that plot has potential. But I just really don't like Elspeth. She is continuing to be extremely hostile to these people who have shown that they are not hostile towards her. Extremely distrustful, extremely antagonistic towards pretty much everything. And then right in the very end of the last chapter I read, we got this big reveal, which not only was it certainly telegraphed to the reader, it was definitely telegraphed to Elspeth as well, and it's being treated, well, I don't know if it's being treated like the big shock. It certainly seemed in the last couple of paragraphs that it was a big shock to her, and I'm just like, I get it, you don't like this development, and you have all these reasons to be against it, but it wasn't a surprise. I chafe against the idea that it was a surprise to her. And that's the kind of writing that really, really irritates me, is when an author tells us that a female protagonist is sharp and clever, but then, actually on the page, they're just dumb as a sack of hammers. I don't know that the author has told us that Elspeth is supposed to be sharp. She's certainly a survivor, but for someone who's a survivor, she certainly is taken by surprise a fucking lot. Just she's always gasping or whirling around or, you know, letting out a breath of surprise. You know, she's always surprised by something, and that's getting really old. Unfortunately, not really liking it. I am going to try and finish it, though. Unless it just gets monumentally worse, I'm going to try and finish it. It reads very quickly, even though I'm not really enjoying it. It's only like 400 pages. So I'm going to try and get this finished this week for this vlog for sure. And then the other book, as you know, I'm reading is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. And I am currently 30% of the way into that. So again, not too much more read since the last time we spoke. The story has taken a little bit of a turn that I did not anticipate, but I'm not necessarily mad at it either. I guess we'll just have to see. I was kind of looking forward to this character of Tao, who is a little bit of a coward and not you know, what you would think of as a master swordsman. He is, you know, certainly got his weaknesses, and he is on one of the lowest rungs of society. And I was anticipating, after this great tragedy that he experienced, that he was going to overcome these challenges of his cowardly nature and the fact that he's not like as skilled as of a swordsman to exact his revenge on the people who ruined his life. And we've taken a little bit of a turn from that. I still think that's the ultimate goal for him, but now he has been inducted into the military under this special unit, and he doesn't even really know why he was chosen. And we certainly don't know why. I mean, there was like one line of explanation that was very, very vague. And I think that's going to be a plot point later. I'm not mad at it. But again, the shape of the story could still go in that direction. It just, I didn't anticipate this path of getting there, which again is not necessarily a bad thing. The other thing I will say about The Rage of Dragons and Evan Winter specifically is he loves to write combat. Most of the fights so far, there's been one really big battle, but for the rest of it, it's all been fights that have been like sparring and practice matches and all of that. But he describes every bit of them in loving detail. And that's not really my favorite. It doesn't really move plot along, and so it just feels like excess wordage. But it is, you know, it's great I mean, it's well done writing. It's just, again, it's just not my favorite kind of writing because it just doesn't do anything for me. I mean, we've established that Tao is not a tremendously skilled fighter, and he is up against tremendous odds against fighters who are more skilled than him, and yet he is overcoming them. And I do find that interesting in a way, but like the amount of fight scenes we've gotten so far is just edging on tedious. So we'll see how that progresses. I'm only 30% of the way in, you know, 350 more pages to go. But yeah, so there are pros and cons to both of these books, really. It's just that in one of them, the pros outweigh the cons, and the other, the cons so far is outweighing the pros. So kind of a mixed bag this week, but again, I am just grateful to feel like reading again. Now, the last 2 days have really dampened that because I've just felt like crap. And when I feel this way, I don't want to concentrate on anything. I don't even want to hold the book up in front of my face. I just want to lay in bed. I've been watching like a lot of the Olympic trials. That tells you where I'm at mentally. That's my brief reading update. I'm going to try and get a little bit more work or reading done tomorrow, and I will let you know how it goes. Hello, everyone. It has been quite some time since we last spoke, about a week and a half. It is now June 29th, and unfortunately, I had to take another break from reading and writing and being creative. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in my Wednesday video, but the sum of it is I got sick, and then I got sicker, and then pretty much my whole family got sick. And I have been dealing with that and trying to get back to work and having appointments and all the kinds of stuff, and it just hasn't been very conducive to reading, writing, being creative. But I am going to try and get a book finished before the end of the month, which would be tomorrow. And for that, I have chosen to focus on One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. It is shorter and a little bit less dense compared to The Rage of Dragons, so this is what I'm going to try and finish. I am now up to, I just started the second part, which is about 40%, and unfortunately, I am still really not liking the main character. I would go so far as to say I hate her. Reading from her perspective is extremely unpleasant for me. I just find her to be unnecessarily hostile and antagonistic to pretty much every other character in this book, including the people who love her and who she supposedly loves. She is just so like bitchy and just mean and antagonistic, and anytime someone acts in a way that is contrary to what she wants or what she believes or what her morals are or what she perceives to be against her, she just lashes out, and I really don't care for it. And I know that she has lived kind of a difficult life because her magic, comes with a death sentence in more than one way. She's basically has to keep herself hidden. And if she's found out, that she could go to prison or, be put to death, in addition to like all of the bad stuff that comes with the magic itself. And so I get how that would make someone distrustful and wanting to close themselves off. But even when she is presented with new facts and information and is meeting new people who kind of share her condition and share her goals even, she is like completely unnecessarily antagonistic and hostile and mean, and I really just have not enjoyed reading from her perspective. The other thing complicating that is like, even though she like doesn't trust these people and doesn't feel like they have her best interest at heart, or that they could turn on her at any moment, she feels really entitled to their secrets and all the information. She is like so very demanding of being let in on this conspiracy that is very dangerous for everyone involved, and she just arrived on the scene, and really the only reason that she's being invited in is because her magic in particular is useful to the cause. And yet she waltzes in and is like, I need to know everything right now, right this minute, even though we're in the middle of a party. I need you to drag everyone in and tell me what I need to know because I need to know it. And then when they have the gall of like testing her trustworthiness, she acts like she's the one being put through an ordeal. And it's just, I really don't care for it. And even like, especially since she has a very, very big secret that she is not sharing with the group, and something that could probably help them in their cause, but she for some reason feels like they're going to turn on her if they know, even though they know already that she's got magic and all this stuff. And so it's just really hypocritical that she is mad at characters for not giving up all of their secrets to her immediately, but she's holding on to this big one. And there are just other things, like there's a pretty big assumption she's making about her magic right off the get-go, and I just have a hard time believing the way that the author has reiterated it a couple of times. Makes me feel pretty certain that it's not the case. And it's frustrating because I don't see why the main character believes this to be true about her magic. So basically, magic is an infection in this world, and it manifests in different ways in different people, and hers supposedly manifests in the ability to absorb the magic from the deck of cards that is the accepted form of magic in this world. And she believes this because it happened once. And she's never tried it again or anything. And I'm just like, okay, why are you so convinced that this is how your magic works? Because you saw it happen once. And again, because it's been reiterated so many times already, that I'm thinking that that's gonna turn out to not be true. And it's gonna be this huge shock, and I'm gonna be annoyed because, again, why would you make this assumption? And why would you rely on it? Anyway, I don't know. It's just not for me so far, but I am committed to finishing it, and we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, so far, not my favorite. There is potential there. I really do like the idea of this magical deck of cards and kind of the lore of this kingdom and this mist that has magic in it, but it like is an infection, and people who have magic eventually go crazy because of it. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I really like the interactions that the main character has had with the king's nephew, who also has magic and is starting to succumb to the effects of the madness that magic brings. I really love those. Have been my favorite moments so far, because I feel like there's like a darkness there that I would wish would be explored more, but instead it's being kind of treated as a cautionary tale. Anyway, so there's some good stuff in here. It's just that it's really difficult for me to enjoy because I don't like the main character at all. That is that. Like I said, I am going to go ahead and try and finish this book this weekend. I'm going to try and aim for about 60
the 60% mark before the end of today. And usually once I get to about 65%, I tend to binge read the end. So that will put me in good shape for tomorrow to just pick it up and finish it. And that will mark another book that I've actually finished in the month of June. This month has been pretty rough, as you can tell, in terms of my productivity. First, the vacation that I had at the beginning of the month where I didn't really feel up to doing anything and thought it would be a good idea to just take a break, and then I got whammied with all this stuff. But that aside, I am committed to getting this book finished and letting y'all know everything I think about it before the end of tomorrow. So I'll let you know how that goes, and I will check in with you guys in a little bit once I've done some more reading.
Hello everyone. It is now Sunday afternoon, and as promised, I have finished One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And I have some thoughts. My first thought is that I think I was a little bit too harsh with my previous thoughts and criticisms on this book, because as I finished it out, I do think this book has some potential. I see what other people see in it to a degree. I do think there are good things about this book. Where my issue comes in is I just don't think that the main character or really the romance are two of those good things. My criticism of Elspeth remains the same. I do think that she is too hostile, too aggressive, too untrusting, and too just demanding and entitled as a main character. I really did not enjoy reading from her perspective at all. And I do feel like the romance was a little bit unnecessary, a little bit on the rushed side. I just don't feel like, I feel like it could have been lifted out and this book would be the same. And I almost better for it, because that space that the romance took up could have been lent towards other explorations of different facets of the lore and the relationship that Elspeth has with the world itself. That would make her a little bit more sympathetic to someone like me who hated her. I do, the very last, the reveal about her magic and her relationship with the creature in her head and what his nature is, I'm of two minds of, because on the one hand, it is so fucking obvious from the very fucking beginning, and it's so fucking frustrating that she can't fucking figure it out, and we have to go through 250 pages of her demanding answers, yet ignoring all of the context clues that he's giving her. But the ending itself, as it relates to that reveal, I really did enjoy. I really did like the ending. It's not often that authors are willing to go there. And while there's an entire second book which could radically change what this ending means, I do enjoy that she went there. This is kind of a similar situation with Six of Crows, where I really didn't love most of it. With Six of Crows, I just thought it was fine with, and then the ending is enticing enough to get me interested in the sequel. I'm not sold on the sequel just yet. I think I needed some time and distance before I decide if I want to read Two Twisted Crowns. Because like I said, the ending for me was the best part of this book. I really enjoyed just the way it kind of all wrapped up. But there are other things about it that I also were frustrating for me, and it all has to do with just Elspeth as the POV character and just not taking a fucking hint. And she did the thing that I hate so much in these books, which is she said the author in the text, in the it's another character speaking about her, calls the main character clever when she is demonstrably dumber than a sack of hammers. I hate that. I hate it, because, and it's always with these romanticides, but when the plot can't possibly move along unless your female protagonist doesn't know what's going on, and there's some sort of like trickeration or miscommunication or secrets being held or whatever, and the female main character has to figure it out. But the author is also so heavy-handed with the foreshadowing and the clues that it's obvious to us, and in comparison makes the female protagonist look so fucking dumb. And that happened here. There wasn't a single twist in this book that I didn't guess, which is a personal pet peeve of mine. And then at the end, the author had the audacity to call her main character clever. I hate that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's especially prevalent in romantasy. But rant over. Like I said, the magic system is interesting. It's not as interesting as I hoped it would be, but I think that is the other pitfall of this book, is that the author is so focused on the romance. I struggle to say that because it actually didn't take up that much oxygen, to the point where it was rendered completely unnecessary. But at the same time, like, because it was so unnecessary, all of that page time, all of that screen time, figuratively speaking, could have and
probably should have been given towards exploring other aspects of this world. I think I enjoyed Elspeth's relationships with almost every other character other than her love interest, because and there was nothing necessarily wrong with it. It was just it was rushed. She went from not trusting him, kind of hating him, to like mooning after him really, really quickly. There was almost no progression of I don't trust him, he represents everything I hate, to I'm in love with him, other than we share a common goal and he is obviously a good person. And like, I get that is enough in a lot of these romanticities. It's just not enough for me. And especially since it culminated so quickly. I think I skipped the sex scene again. I did that with A Fate Inked in Blood, because I was just like, I'm over it. Let's just get to the action, and not that kind of action. Elspeth and Elm, which is a like second prince who is on their who is helping them with their little quest, who's just kind of a dick. I would love to have seen more of that explored, like playing with, they're on the same side, but they are actually just don't like each other. I kind of love that dynamic, because it's not always going to be one happy big family that always, because their goals align, they're always getting along. I wish that had been explored a little bit more. I wish Emery, who is the male love interest brother and is kind of, because of his magic, he's like slowly degenerating. I loved Elspeth's interactions with him particularly, but I feel he was really underutilized as a character. I really loved the ending with her dad. I'm not going to get into specifics, but that I feel like her relationship specifically with her father was not explored. It was more about her like stepmom and her half sisters. And again, it's just that didn't really do much for the story, but I really feel like the complicated relationship with her father really had potential. And that I will say that I did not see coming. The ending with her dad. That I was surprised by. And I just wish that we had gotten kind of more of their dynamic. Her cousin, Ione, as well, who at the very beginning is betrothed to the prince, and it pretty much immediately changes in terms of like her personality and her goals. It's kind of explained at the end why she's doing the things she's doing a little bit, and I wish that was explored more. So like I said, there are nuggets throughout that tell me that this book really does have potential. It's just focused on the wrong things. And the main character's just so insufferable. Just so insufferable. It's not just that she's always immediately combative to anyone who approaches her or anyone who is involved in her life. It's also that she is perpetually surprised by everything. Always surprised. She's always like gasping or jumping or falling over. Oh, that's the other thing that she does. She's always tripping or falling over about something. If it's not because she's surprised, it's because she's, I guess, just clumsy, even though it's not like stated that she's clumsy as a personality trait, which, I mean, I guess it's not necessary when she just is. It's just like she's always just like jumping in surprise or gasping or like, or, anyway, it's just like, I almost wish that I had the ebook version so I could search for the amount of times that the word like gasp or fall or whatever, like someone tally that would be great, because it's a lot. And as a narrative device, it got old very, very quickly. And again, it goes back to the part about her being clever. Like, if she's so clever, why is she fucking surprised by literally anything that happens? Like I said, the protagonist was not my favorite. And for that reason, her perspective being so unpleasant is the primary reason that I'm probably going to be rating this book 2.5, maybe 3. I have to sleep on it, because like I said, there is potential, and a lot of the lore aspects that I wish would be explored do intrigue me. Some of the characters intrigue me, and like how they have moved through the world and how they are going to interact with this new reality that they're presented with. She was just such a bitch, and just so like, she was bitchy and like not helpful in almost any way. She helped once with the main goal and ultimately caused more problems than she solved. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I haven't read too much I don't know enough about this book to know, or like the conversation around it to know if she is a well-beloved main character. I personally hated her. Easily top 5 least favorite main characters that I've ever read. And like, it's not that I don't
it's not that I can't tolerate unlikable main characters, it's that the narrative has to treat them as unlikable, and that's not what this narrative did. So yeah, that is probably going to be my final rating. Like it's right there on the cusp. I don't know, 2.5 seems right. I have to sit down with my call pile and see kind of how it breaks down. And maybe thinking that it's a 3 is just being charitable because I did like the ending. I'm going to sleep on it. But that is going to wrap up this reading vlog. I know it took way longer than I anticipated because I was so sick and everyone in my house is sick and everything else. And I didn't even finish the other book that I was reading. In fact, I don't think I've read it at all since I last updated. I'm still sitting at 30%, but glad that I at least finished one more book in the month of June. The last couple of months have really not been favorable in terms of my reading plans, but that's a rant for another day. For now, I am going to get back to the Rage of Dragons. In my next video, I am going to be doing a much needed cozy reset. I'm going to be doing a little bit different of a cozy reset. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what's been going on with me. I'm not going to focus so much on the past month because there hasn't really been much to it, but I am going to talk about my goals for the new month, including my reading plans and my TBR. I'm just going to combine the TBR into my cozy reset this time. So with that, I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.